It's been quite a revelation to see so many different types of coaches charging different prices, working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients, but then ultimately getting burnt out, hating the business that they have because they're not able to charge premium 5-figure packages per se. I've got a spicy topic that I want to discuss today, and it's all about your pricing strategy and why I think undercharging, especially inside of the coaching industry, is such an expensive gig. Now, when I look at this, I get exactly why a lot of coaches charge $1,000. They might charge $500. You might charge a couple $1,000. But when it comes to charging 5 figures, tens of thousands of dollars, it becomes a very, very daunting task. Okay, so a couple of things that tend to happen inside of your mind. The very first thing is when you step out of this place of charging so little, $1,000, $500, you're entering this place where it's quite common. People understand that coaching is going to be relatively anywhere between $500 and $5,000, and that's kind of like the general gist of it. And people feel comfortable, and so the people that you talk to, they're generally comfortable with stuff. And it's quite funny when I look at high-end brands. I look at Rolex, I look at Apple, I look at Louis Vuitton, I look at some of the most premium brands in the world. I start to think about two things. I really think if you want to have a great business, one that you actually enjoy, one that you enjoy working with the clients, and if you start to recognize that the business that you have, the quality of the business comes down to the quality of the clients. And generally, the quality of the clients come when you work with better clients who pay you what you're worth. Because when you get paid what you're worth, when you're taken care of financially, and you know that you might be making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month in profit, and you can focus on the dozens of clients that you have, and you're not working with 100 clients who have paid you $1,000 and now you're scatterbrained. And this approach has taken me quite a while to see. It's been quite a revelation to see so many different types of coaches charging different prices, working with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clients, but then ultimately getting burnt out, hating the business that they have because they're not able to charge premium 5-figure packages per se. So I want to break this down because it's kind of like asking the person at a shopping mall to not shop at Target and go up and shop at Louis Vuitton. It's crazy. Not everyone's going to shop at Louis Vuitton. And ultimately, if you want to become the Target, if you want to become that kind of a price commoditized brand, then so be it. But I think it was Dan Kennedy, and he said there's no competitive advantage of being the second cheapest. If you can't be the cheapest, if you can't be the Walmart, then naturally you got to be the most expensive because there's always somebody else that can do it cheaper than you. And so pricing is a really crazy thing because pricing inside of coaching has a lot to do with self-worth. And so self-worth comes down to the level of, well, how much are you worth? How much do you think you're worth? How much is your time worth? What is that line that you're going to draw in the sand to go, hey, you know what? I need to get charged. And everyone's got a self-worth line. It's a limit. It's just right now, if I was to ask you, look, would you work with a client who paid you $10? And you're like, Lynn, I can't do that. And I'm like, well, what's the difference between $10 and $100 or $10 and $1,000 and $10 and $10,000? It's the limit that you've imposed on yourself based on what you think you can charge. It's kind of this upper limit that you've put on. And so the upper limit tends to be from what you think your worth is. And what you think your worth is essentially coming down to what you've seen yourself charge inside of the past. What you believe your self-worth is what people are telling you your self-worth is right now. And generally, that's what happens. And so it becomes really difficult to pull away from charging low prices because the current people that you currently have paid you low prices. And you're starting to go, well, Lynn, like I would have 0 clients if I let go of these people. And it was interesting because a few years ago, back when I was a personal trainer at the gym, I was doing about 45 client sessions a week. This was about 7 years ago. I was doing 45 client sessions a week, and I remember always being full. And a mentor of mine I spoke to at the time was like, dude, you need to double your prices. And if you double your prices, then 75% of people will leave. And what generally happens is from the 45 sessions, you'll get 10 sessions. You won't actually take that much of a loss. If you actually do the calculations, if you double your prices, well, you'll have more time to free up to actually create more leverage inside of your life. And so I did that. And I remember going from charging $75 a session to $150 a session. I remember I was going back to about 12 sessions a week. And that daunting feeling just to say to myself, what am I going to do with all that time? Like I didn't know what I was going to do with all that time. And if I didn't actually create that space, what ended up happening was I ended up having 12 sessions a week. I had about 4 clients that did 3 sessions a week with me, and they were happy to, because I said, look, I'm going to double my prices. I'm getting burnt out. I've done 45 sessions for the last 7 years. I can't keep this up. I would love to focus on 3 or 4 clients. And so a lot of clients were like, well, I can't do this. And so essentially what I did was I created another program, and that was a hybrid program where I saw them in the gym, and they had me inside of a Facebook group and an Optimize Press and a membership site. At the time, it was called Optimize Press back in the days, in the OG days, before any of the ClickFunnels and lead pages. They had me inside of the group, and they saw me once a week for a workshop where we'd come in together, train together, and do some sort of a training workshop. But nonetheless, what I started to recognize was there was this upper limit to how much I was charging, and it was this upper limit. And the clients that actually stayed with me, I could obviously give more attention to. I could foster better relationships. I could go deeper with their work. I was less stressed out. I was less burnt out all the time. I was less tired. I was less fleeting thinking about the next session. I actually started to enjoy the work that I did better because I wasn't so burnt out. So if you've ever had the problem where right now you might be undercharging, and I don't know how much you charge. The general consensus online is anywhere between $1,000 and $6,000. I think when we go into 5 figures, there then becomes this money block of, oh my God, what do I give to these people, right? And it's kind of like, well, why does Rolex sell their watch for $50,000 versus Tissot or some Citizen or some other general brand? A lot of it, there's 2 things when it comes to pricing. Number one is obviously the brand and the position inside of the marketplace. So if you're the best known as being the expert for providing a specific transformation, number one, if you're the best known, the branding and the positioning, you've got that right, and you look high end, and the feel of working with you is going, I'm going to get with the best coach in the world. That allows you to position yourself greater than everybody else inside of the market. And number 2 is quantifying the end result for somebody. So I talk a lot to my clients about inside of the 1% thinking about not solving a problem-based problem, like AKA there's a difference between helping a mum try to lose 5 kilos. That's very problem-based. She's got 5 kilos to lose. She's got she wants to lose 5 kilos, and so that becomes very limited in the result that you can provide, as opposed to actually helping her create a kick-ass body, one that she absolutely loves and she's never actually had before. That becomes a very possibility-based. And so when you look at pricing, there's 2 things that affect it. 1, your brand, your positioning, and 2, your ability to not solve the problems, aka I'm going to help you lose 5 kilos, I'm going to help you lose 10 kilos, but actually paint the big possibility of ultimately who they can become. You move from problem to possibility. And the reasons why I want to bring this up is if you're a coach and you charge $1,000 to work with you over the course of 8 weeks or however you got yourself structured, and your goal is to make $20,000 a month, it becomes quite obvious that you have to worry about making 20 sales every month, and then you have to deliver to 20 clients. The amount of time, energy, effort, the attention that you can, the ability for you to get to know those people, the 20 people, is going to be far less than, let's say, if you worked with 3 people. And let's say if you earned the same amount of money, instead of charging $1,000 when you're working with 3, now you're charging $6,777, right? So the attention's better, which means if you have more attention and you actually have more rapport and you actually get to care about them and see what their problems and obstacles are, then ultimately you can provide better results. You have the ability to process things better because you're not frustrated by all the customer support that you're going to have to do inside of the chat, inside of messages, inside of getting back to them. You can actually think about, okay, well, I've got 3 people. These are their problems. How can I process this up so that the next people that come through have a better experience? How can I make this a better experience for them? And so generally what happens inside of the industry is, people think that jacking up their prices is ultimately ripping people off. And in actual fact, jacking up your prices is actually figuring out, well, how do I actually do better for this person? How can I pay more attention to them? How can I give them a better experience? How can I be better for them? And it's actually doing your clients a disservice going down the lower end where you try to get 50 new clients in every single month. And at the end of the day, you work with these clients, but you don't even know who they are. You don't even know their name. You don't even care. You just look at them as another number. And I almost feel like this is what's happening inside of the coaching industry. So we talk a lot about scale and people with their numbers. And what I start to think when I see all these ads popping up on Facebook and when I go into people's funnels, I start to go, where's the relationship built? Everyone seems to be another number. And when you operate your business, especially as a coach, where you get so much fulfillment of operating from your connection with somebody, getting to know them, getting to know their journey. When you lose that as a coach, you lose the fire, you lose the spark, which is why it becomes so difficult to scale coaching. But at the same time, you can't scale coaching if you don't get the numbers right. And you don't get to do your best work if you undercharge. But there's this little weird dichotomy, and it's you know, when you look at installing paid advertising and you start to look at the numbers, you really start to break down the numbers. I'll post the sheet later inside the group. When you start to really break down the numbers, you start to go, holy shit, like if I'm going to charge $2,000 for a coaching client and I work with them for a period of 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, however long you decide to work with them, it doesn't become feasible based on the profit margin that you want to have. And then based on the amount of advertising that you might have to spend, your parameters in order to acquire that client, it just doesn't actually make sense. By the end of it, your profit ends up being, I don't know, $500, depending on how good you are at being able to market to reduce that cost per acquisition. And so it becomes a sticky situation. I see a lot of people stuck. If you're stuck, drop a comment and let me know if this is exactly what you're stuck with, like undercharging, being burnt out, going, Lynn, like I can't make the math work because I'm undercharging. You might be getting 10, 15, 20 clients inside of your business every single month, but do you really know your clients? Are they just another number to you? Do you really care about them? In actual fact, it's becoming such a real thing when we look at where the coaching industry is going, where everyone's pushing for this mass figure to get to 7 figures as soon as possible. And the goal doesn't become, you know, how many transformations, how many stories can I create? The goal then becomes, well, how many people can I sign up? That is part of the goal, but that's not the end goal. The end goal is the actual transformation and the story that you got to take part in inside of this person's life. So that being said, I want to know your thoughts. I want to know whether or not you feel like you're undercharging, whether or not you've ever had that moment where you've had an influx of clients and it's been really hard to keep up. And a lot of this is honesty, transparency, and truth. Like the stuff that I'm talking about here, very few people would ever acknowledge and mention, because it's harming to say that, hey, you know what, as a coach, I could have done better. I could have done more for the client, but they became a number because I was focused on the numbers and I wasn't charging what I'm worth. And therefore I couldn't give them the attention, the care that they needed, because now I had an influx of clients. There were 20 everywhere. And then we didn't hit our income goals and our cost per acquisition was going up. So I'm worried about getting the next clients through inside of the next session or the next season or the next month. And so it's actually really important to acknowledge. And if you feel this message, drop a comment down below. Let me know if this resonates with you, #resonates. And I want to put out some training, especially inside of 2021. And I want to show you the spreadsheet, and I want to give it to you. And I want to show you how to simulate, like being able to plan out and simulate the numbers inside of your business in order for you to make it work, so that in 2021, you start to go, wow, I can't charge this because the math doesn't actually work out. And a lot of you surprisingly are charging too little. And so the math doesn't work out, which means you can't spend on advertising, which means it becomes too expensive to acquire a client. And then so even though you've got 20 clients coming in, there's not enough profit margin. And so that becomes a problem as well. But also too, there's a couple of factors in charging high tickets, not just raising your price. It's about figuring out what is this possibility and ultimately building the brand. So if that resonates with you, comment #resonates down below. I'm going to put a little spreadsheet on exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's going to be extremely vital for you coming in 2021. With that being said, Christmas is coming up. It's Christmas week. It's my favorite time of the year. Just super great permission to switch off, and super grateful for this entire year. Been a hectic year. Plenty of growth that I would love to share with you later on this week. Have an amazing day. I'll see you in the next one.